And some of you might remember this. This is part of the analysis we did last week for Centaurworld. And in here, we were looking at the beginning of the show and looking at how they really push the emotional beats in here, how they push the animation, all the little cool details that made these shots feel so alive and so
So
beautiful.
good.
Now, this is probably one of my favorite shots right here. This shot, I'll just play a little bit of it because it's worth playing. It's just so good. And the
That little
music
double
is,
take with horse is so good.
yeah, so good. So for anyone who hasn't seen this show, I highly recommend it. It's
Yes.
good.
So good. Look at that animation. So beautiful.
And that part
Yeah,
is
that's
it's
such
just
a
like,
cool
oh,
effect.
so good.
Get those expressions.
Yeah, you just like a freeze frame here. It's so beautifully drawn. It is a masterpiece. So
you feel that emotion in there. And that's, again, going back to what we were just talking about. You just look at this and you feel not just one emotion, but you can feel multiple emotions. There's this subtext in here. There's a conflict. There's mixed emotions, and it just reads so well. And yes, there's so much depth, and that is kind of the goal you should reach when you're trying to do emotions, is not just do one emotion. If you can manage to sell 2 or even 3 emotions in one, that's when you get to the good stuff.
It really does add a lot when you can mix emotions. You don't just go with the happy, sad, angry, but mix a little bit. Like you could have someone angry, but a little bit of happiness too, or angry but a little sadness. Start mixing them.
Or happy and sad.
Yeah, happy and sad. There's a lot of different ways you can merge emotions.
A great example of that is Toy Story 3 with Andy giving Woody away. Like when he leaves, there's that mixture of happiness to see Woody being played with again, but sadness because he's giving him away and he's leaving his best friend. And when you can get that kind of stuff in your animation, that's where you really kind of level up in your skill.
Yeah, it pushes your animations to such a deeper level because the character has subtext. It's not just a smiley face, frowny face. You're putting more into it. There's a reason and there's a story behind it.
And happy sad, when you laugh so much you cry, that's more just really happy, really joyful. I was talking more about when you're happy for someone but also sad, like with the Toy Story example of he's happy to see his best friend in a new happy place, but he's sad because he doesn't get to be there with him.
Yeah.
Or happy that, like, an example of this what would be another good example?
Well, just on the laughing part, like laughing until you cry is just laughing until your body can't take it anymore. You're crying because your body can't take it. But you can be so happy that you start crying, and it can be for a lot of different reasons. It could just be your body reacting that way, but a lot of times it's that kind of inner realization that I've never been this happy before, or man, I really love this person, or my life is really where I want it to be, and that realization just makes you cry because it's just so
it's overwhelming.
Yeah, it's an overwhelming feeling. So when you get to that level, that you're starting to mix in emotions. It's not just happiness, there's this other level in there. So it's not just like tears on their own can happen anytime. You can cry, like the act of crying, not the like sad crying, just the act of tears coming out happens a lot. It can happen when you're sick. It can happen when you are sad. It can happen when you're
It can
laughing.
just happen because your eyes are watery.
Yeah, it can happen just because. If you got allergies, you could just be sitting there and your eyes could be crying, but you're not sad. You've got tears. So we want to be careful that we're just not using the concept of tears to convey sadness, but the emotion behind it. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's understanding why your character is feeling the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, if you just go, well, my character's going to be sad now. But why?
Yeah.
Think about what the character is feeling. Think about what they're thinking at that moment. That's very important as an animator, is to know your characters, know who they are, how they feel, how they see the world, and how they have relations and relationships to everything around them.
Definitely.
It's important to know who they are, not just on a surface level.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps. And if you have any questions on that, definitely let us know.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about all of these shots here last week. So today we're going to be switching over to these shots. And suddenly the whole feeling of the show has changed. It's much more colorful for one. So we're going to be
disturbing.
Yeah,
just interesting how you can go from a burning village and then this and go, oh, that's so much more disturbing.
Yeah, exactly. So,
oh dear, again, I think you mean oh giraffe.
That's true. So, we're going to be taking a look at this and focusing mostly on the cartoony side of things, but also looking at the way they make things work. So, let's just hit play and see what the first scene we've got here is. And to be fair, it's just going to get a little bit more disturbing.
Yes.
Hello. There you go. Hello. There you go. That's the first scene we're looking at. And it's a very simple scene, but there's a lot of really good animation in here. So let's dive in here.
Yes.
So a few things that I really love here. The core motion that I love is how as they move the head, it's not linear. It's not just a straight over and done and that's it.
Yeah, it doesn't just come in straight.
It also, when it rotates, it doesn't just go boop and it finishes. There's an anticipation right here. So as he's about to start moving his head, you have this anticipation backwards, and it's not just pulling straight back. You've got some angle changes here. You can see how the chin drags back this way. The head kind of, especially if you look at that, it's not an antler. I forget the term for these.
Aren't they like antipodes or something?
Yeah, something like that for a giraffe. You can see that kind of being held back. It holds behind. Then as he comes up, we get into a little bit of a moving hold at the top before it arcs through. Oh, that's disturbing. In one frame, it just goes right into the camera. And then we get that overshoot in the chin right there. Not in the whole head. If you watch the whole head, it goes over and kind of wraps around there. But then the chin keeps going and overlaps around. So you've got that offset between the chin and the head. It's very small, but it makes the character feel alive and organic. So
if you can almost see,
if we play that at speed here, you can just feel that little extra hold and then come down. And what I love is if you actually look at the spacing of the hold here, it goes up quickly right there, gets some hang time before coming down quickly. It's a bouncing ball principle right there.
And you can actually, if you were to draw, I'll pick a different color than you. You imagine this part of his head as a ball. That's his skull. That is like your cranium. The bottom part you can kind of see as another ball. Part right there. And what's happening is if you connect those between, you have the skull move, and then the chin is another ball moving along with it.
It's almost like a pendulum.
Just have, it's a pendulum assignment. It's really that simple. So if we look at that like a pendulum, here at the beginning,
the blink is so good.
Creepy.
We'll look at the blink in a little bit.
So the first thing that happens, this is a nice little touch, is actually his jaw moves first. You can see right there, the jaw moves first, which is nice because he's getting ready to say hello, so he's readjusting his jaw a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a good way to anticipate the dialogue. And then here, again, what happens first is the jaw drops because the jaw is looser.
Mm-hmm.
So it drops first, and then the head goes. You get this little down here, and then the head moves, and the jaw, notice how it drags behind here. So just like your pendulums, the bottom part will drag as the head, which is where the spine connects, gets pulled up. And then as he comes up, the chin catches up, it tucks in. And then as he comes forward, you see how the chin swoops up based on the arc that his head did, like Bo was saying, and then settles down like bouncing ball.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just thinking about those basic principles. Even something as complex as this really interesting head turn is the bouncing ball and the pendulum.
Yeah. And you can kind of exaggerate that and use it to connect extra things, like, for example, the mouth. You've got this beautiful arc in the mouth here where he goes hello, and he's not just going hello and just in out like that. It's hello, and you got the big arc in the mouth there, and you can see it go through over this way and then arcing around, and because of the overlap in the jaw, they all feel connected. It feels like as the mouth is moving, it's being affected by the jaw, or the jaw is being affected by the mouth. And you once again get that nice little hang time right there before it comes down and just opens up really quick. Look how fast it opens up. It holds this pose, kind of opens up a little bit.
A little bit of an ease favoring the
and then
the hold.
Done in two frames because it's animated on twos. It pops open with just a little bit of an ease,
and then just a bit of settle at the end.
This
just
is
to finish off those nice arcs.
Yeah. Now this is
all about arcs.
Yeah, it definitely is. And this is all something that you can add in with your CG animation. If you're animating in CG, same things apply. A mouth can open up in 2 frames. You just have a little bit of an ease, pop open in 2 frames, ease afterwards, and it'll look good. Now, we've got all of that. Now let's actually just look at the blink here. One thing I love about the blink is just how long it takes. So we've got the start here. The eye isn't moving on frame 4. And then by the time the eyes are closed, it's frame 9. It takes about 5 frames for the eyes to go from open to closed. It holds for a few frames, about 3-4 frames. And then look how fast it opens. It just pops open and then eases in. What's that?
So disturbing when you just pop the eyes open.
It is very creepy. So they are pushing the spacing of the eyes. Even as it closes, you can see how much it just pops down. With eyes, you don't want them to just go very linearly down and then linearly open. It makes blinks feel very weird. Instead, you have a lot of ease at the beginning and at the end and close them very quickly.
Yeah.
And then you want to make sure that the offset, I didn't realize just how crooked his eyes are there. Just look at the white space over the eyes.
Yeah, I know.
As he opens his eyes, we'll focus on the screen right one here. Look how close it is as he's closing his eye. The white space is very narrow over the pupil. Then when he opens, it's wider. They're exaggerating that spacing. So it's not just the same going in and out. And that's very important. When you have, let's say, your eyelid coming down here and then your eyelid going up, your spacing should not be the same. So if it's doing this, easing out and then easing in right there, it shouldn't be like that, where they're both matching completely. That's going to feel very strange.
It's going to feel robotic.
Exactly. Instead, you want one eye to maybe go a little maybe have a little bit more of an ease going in, and then as it opens, it's a little bit wider right there, or vice versa. You can have either or. It really just depends on the type of blink you want. But just make sure that they're not the same on each one. Let's see, the space in both eyes are off. Yeah, that's definitely a very artistic choice, and it makes them feel a little strange.
Well, that's the thing. There's this whole thing about Pixar blinks where you
Yes,
have
that's a
a
good
blink where
point.
it goes boom, boom, and then open, close. So an uneven blink. And that's generally not a good thing unless your character is like exhausted or drugged,
Yeah.
because our eyes don't offset blinks like that. Pixar blinks, I believe, were done for a reason on Toy Story, because they're toys, and if you guys have ever played with those like creepy dolls where you lean them back and lean them up,
And their
the
eyes
eyes would,
close.
like, one eye would always stick and it would always open kind of crooked. So I think that's where it came from. But what happened is just everyone went, oh, that's how Pixar did blinks.
That's how
We'll
we should
just
all
all
do
copy
blinks.
it. Yeah. Not realizing that Pixar had done it for a reason. So that kind of became a trope, is the air quotes Pixar blink. And you don't want to do that. You want your eyes to open and close at the same time. That said, if you look at this guy's blinks here, the eyes start moving at the same time. So the timing of the start is the same. The timing of the close is the same.
Yeah,
they close at the same time.
frame.
And then they open and finish at the same time. So the timing is exactly the same. But what you can do is you can change the spacing of each eye. So one eye closes just a little bit sooner than the other in terms of spacing. So it's a little bit faster on one frame as it closes. So your timing is the same, and you don't get that offset blink, but you can add some natural offset in the blink so they don't feel robotic and even and twinned.
Yeah, you don't want that twinning effect, which is weird for us to say, but you want to create that little offset. And this applies to any motion. If you have hands that have to gesture at the same time, they can start at the same frame, end on the same frame, but in the middle, you can have one open up just a little faster than the other, and that creates a little bit of an offset that you feel, and it makes the character feel more natural and organic. And Amanda, we didn't work on this show, but
I would have loved to.
I would have loved to work on this show. It's so good. So we're just doing an analysis of the animation in here. And that's awesome that you know people who worked on the show. If you get a chance, say a huge thank you, because from us, because
Yes.
it's an amazing show. I love this show. Everyone did such an amazing work on it. It's fantastic. So let's see. Anything else we want to look at on this shot here? Well, one minor note, and this is just something to pay attention to, is look at how much they're animating the tongue here. You can see as he's going hello, you can see the L shape right there. In lots of animation, especially CG animation, people tend to forget to animate the tongue. Don't do that. You want to sell that. If you're not gonna if they didn't push the tongue up there, it wouldn't read as an L. You wouldn't get that hello. It would be hello. It wouldn't read really nicely.
Getting tongue animation in your animation is really critical to lip sync. When you have like N sound or an L sound
or T,
T, anything where the tongue has to touch the palate of your mouth, if you can really sell that in your dialogue, emphasize it, it will help emphasize the phonemes and really make your mouth animation look so much more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we've got enough with this. Now, actually, just one minor note is I love that they have some sympathetic action in the neck right here. They don't really have it in the body, but at least they move the neck in there, and it just keeps it kind of connected. You see that that's actually his neck.
Forward.
Sympathetic action doesn't have to go through the whole body. You just need something to make that feel like they're connected and moving together.
Yeah.
So let's check out the next scene here. Uh, my favorite character, Wama Winks.
She's so cute.
Yeah, she is adorable.
Look at those little hooves. Aren't they cute?
Even just the hands. It's such a simplified design, but it reads so well. So let's take a listen here and just play through the scene and then see what we've got.
But where did she go? But where did she go?
She's so cute. Look at that mouth shape. So yeah, the
A couple of
smears
things
are
I
great.
want to mention.
Okay, yeah, you start.
Is this character is a llama. So as a llama, this is a really great detail that they do with this character, and paying attention to your character design. Llamas tend to have like larger bottom teeth. Their bottom teeth kind of stick up more. And if you notice, her bottom teeth are the ones that are emphasized. That's a really nice detail. Sure, when she closes her mouth, you get the teeth connected. But you'll notice that when she opens her mouth, she has these three little teeth that give her mouth shapes a very unique feeling when she talks.
Yeah, no other character has that in the show.
So just something to keep in mind when you're designing a character. Try to find traits of whatever character you're doing and put them in there, especially if like you're doing an animal based character. Try to add in traits of the animal and not just going, well, it's a llama, so we'll just make it like llama shaped.
Yeah, and this actually goes into animation as well, where when we're animating something, it's very easy to just do, for lack of a better term, the cliche motions, just moving the character in a way that, yep, that's how you move. That's how you take off your hat. That's how you brush your teeth. Like just the normal everyday movements. When you're trying to animate on a character and really want to make a unique performance, think of how they would do it. What design elements, what character elements, what things in the scene can you use to make this moment unique to your character? Those elements, when you put them in, really make a shot shine and just bring it away from the cliche and the boring. Even though they're doing a standard action, like let's say putting on a hat, they can do it in an interesting way. A good example of this is a lot of cartoons will have characters with very exaggerated proportions, where they've got a huge head and small little bodies. Well, designs like that, oftentimes you can't really reach the top of the head. So how would they do it? Is it going to be very cartoony and stretchy? Will their arms stretch? Well, how can you play around with that? Maybe you want to keep it more realistic, so they have to throw their hat on their head or do something else. That you can use these elements to make a unique moment. Trolls and Centaurworld Tour did that amazingly well, where you've got these characters with huge heads, just absolutely
and
massive.
Stubby arms.
Yeah, stubby little arms. And they really played with how the characters would interact with the world and how they could exaggerate those movements and the characters to make that work. Now,
Wreck-It Ralph is another example.
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph did that really well.
Characters with exaggerated proportions.
Now, Vraukus, hello, welcome. Is this purely 2D or 3D with Toon's shading? There are some 3D moments in this, but in these shots that we have here, I believe it's all 2D. So this is just 2D with some shading on it.
Yeah, just some airbrush shadows.
Yeah. So let's actually take a look at the animation here. And one thing I really love, just kind of starting out, a very basic thing, is the sympathetic action in the character. This might not seem like much, but it helps keep the character alive. So when you, in real life, when you move and when you shift your weight, your body tries to balance itself out. So if I lean forward, my butt goes back. If I lean back, my hips go forward. You're always trying to balance yourself.
If I lean sideways, my hips go the other way to counterbalance me.
Exactly.
So I don't fall over sideways.
So when we watch her leaning over here, you see the head swooping over to the side here, but watch her hips, how they go the other way. You're getting that contrasting motion right there. As she comes back, it does the same. You can feel it counter that motion. And that creates this beautiful contrast in motion. If everything's always just kind of sliding one way and the other, things will look boring. But if you have contrasting motion where something's going to move screen right and something else will move a little bit screen left, it makes your animations that much more dynamic.
And on top of that, it avoids that feeling of her just kind of sitting there and her head turns and nothing else moves. Where you have a disconnected body to head action. You see this a lot in especially student work. We were guilty of it when we were students.
Definitely.
Where you animate a character and it's like, oh, they're going to do a head turn. And you just turn the head and it's just like super creepy.
Yeah.
Because, well, it's a head turn. But when you turn your head, like if I were to try and look 90 degrees off to my side, I'm not just going to turn my head, because if I try that, it feels really awkward.
Yeah,
like
you can still see some body motion.
Yeah, but if I do this naturally, look at how much of my shoulders actually move when I turn my head. There's a whole torso twist. That comes from my lower back. So everything from my lower back up is moving. And even my hips I can feel my hips shift as I twist to balance myself.
Yeah, it definitely adds a lot when you think of that sympathetic motion and then how your body will react to it. And it's a little thing, but it really is a solid base to work from.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I really love is how the motion is fairly simple for the most part. Let's get rid of these arrows here. But if you break it down, you can simplify it even more. We talked about this last week when we did the first part of the analysis, but this character can be thought of as 3 spheres, essentially. You've got the sphere for the head, sphere for the hips, or I should say what would this part be? The chest/hips? And then you've got the hips back there.
The haunches. Head, hips, haunches.
Yeah, I guess so. If you just think of those as circles and just spheres going through, it's just simple arc with a little ease in. You've got the lower one that goes down and then back up, and then the back that just kind of goes up and then down. I'm not gonna draw all of the frames. That's gonna take some time. But if you just imagine just those individual motions, you can break down the character and when you're animating, create these very quick ideas of your shot just by thinking of this. And you just animate those going through. You could even add lines to look at where the head or the chest are going and move your characters through that. And this also works very well with CG animation. So for example, I had to animate a dragon once. It was a large dragon. It had to run along the ground, using its wings to crawl across the ground. That's a very complex, like a bat basically
just
running.
So people aren't imagining like swimming on the ground or something.
Yeah, so imagine a bat crawling on the ground, but it had these legs like that were shaped more like a cat and this long tail. And instead of trying to come up with all of that in CG and trying to figure out how the heck this would run and all of my timing and all of my spacing and all of that, I just did this. I thought of the dragon as a head with just kind of a snoot here, the chest, then the hips were a little higher, and then you had the tail like that. And I just animated those in a 2D program, anything that'll allow you to do a quick animatic. And I just got my timing and my spacing, the arcs working. Once I got that, I added in the arms, which I believe for the dragon, it was something like this. And then I added in the legs, which was something like that. Then I did a pass on those, got my basic motions in there. With all that, I had my timing, my spacing, my basic motion, all of it. I went into CG, threw that onto my rig, and I had the run done in no time at all without having to fight everything and try to figure out how to make this work on a full character. And you don't have to draw really well. Like, this is literally how I drew it. Just spheres moving up and down, and then stick arms and legs. That's it. But it really, really helps. And in 2D, you can do that as well. If you know how to draw very well, you can block out a shot super quickly just by thinking of simple forms and shapes versus trying to do the whole pose frame by frame by frame.
So when I did the Sir Fuego walk animation, as complicated, he's not really that complicated a character, but when I did it, I essentially just drew his body as a big oval and then his head bouncing on top of it, and it was just 2 bouncing balls.
Well, do you have that file that we could?
I do.
I'll let you open that up there, but as you're doing that, you can just break this down and block out all of this motion just with those spheres, get all your timing, all of your cool animation, and then add the details after. Now, I'm not saying this is how this animator approached it. It's just something to think about, especially when dealing with much more complex animations. Now, like Vraukus mentioned, the arms are reacting to the shoulder moves as well. That's really nice. I also love how the arms, watch the angle of the arms. This is something I always look at in my own animations, is let's pick a color that shows up a little better on her. So you have the angle of the arm here. Instead of keeping that angle the whole time she moves, you can see it opens up and then closes again. That angle is changing. It's opening and then closing. This is very important when you're animating, that the arms and especially the legs, as the character's moving, you don't just keep this angle the same the whole time. This creates this, I guess you could say, a action figure kind of feeling, like a toy, where the joint just rotates from the shoulder and then the whole lower part just doesn't really have any articulation. Instead,
it's basically the pendulum assignment.
Yeah.
Think of your way your elbow drags behind.
So instead, you would want to maybe have it start a little closer. As it comes down, maybe it opens up and then it closes again. Or you could do the opposite, where it starts out wider, comes in, and widens out. And that just gives that extra element to your shot. The mouth, it is really good.
Yeah, I love that mouth shape. And this is a great example of, you can push the mouth further than the shape of the head.
Oh, yeah.
Even though the head ends here, the mouth goes past it. And that can be a really great way to exaggerate your characters. And we can even do this in 3D, where we can push the lower jaw down. We can really stretch the mouth. Our characters, a lot of times people just leave the head kind of in its shape, and maybe they'll move the jaw a little bit up and down to get the dialogue. But when you have a character swing their head, you can use that jaw and drag it, and you can drag the mouth. You can do a lot with 3D.
Yeah, it also adds that nice squash and stretch in your motions. So let's kind of go back here at the beginning.
That.
What's that?
I just love this animation.
I know, it's so good.
And the line of dialogue is so nice too. The delivery is so nice.
So as she's turning here, one thing I love is, we looked at this a little bit in the last one. She's leading with not her head, but a portion of her head. When you have a character doing a head turn, very, very rarely do you want the whole head to lead as one unit, where it just kind of whoop, turns. And in this case, my head is leading and then my body turns. But the whole head just kind of stays at the same angle. Instead, you're going to lead with your skull or your jaw, typically. You can kind of lead with your eyes.
Your skull.
What's that?
And then what part of your skull?
Yeah. So you can either lead with your head tilting this way, or you could lead with your jaw tilting. And in this case, she's leading with her jaw. You can see how far the jaw is moving while the head kind of stays in place. This creates a nice tilt, and then that nice reactionary motion the overshoot, where the top of her head now, you can feel it rotating into place. It eases in. She once again leads with her jaw, turns, and you feel that top of the head ease into place. It's such a good line there. Look at that. So good. Oh, she's adorable. Great arc in the head here.
Yeah, everything moves in arcs. Nothing is moving straight.
Now, this smear here. Now she's leading with her shoulder. You can feel that shoulder kind of leading the action there. As she turns, we get this beautiful smear, which is horrifying when you actually just pause on it. Smear frames are a wonderful art of animation. Most people never really even notice them, but a good smear frame really just adds so much clarity to emotion, and just makes that turn in this case feel so much better. Essentially, this turn is happening over one frame. So you have the arm moving here, frame 36.
And there you have a little bit of an ease into the motion.
Yeah.
So you feel the action starting to happen.
Yeah. Then on frame 37, you get this pose. 38, the character is pretty much in position. The only thing that really moves are her ears, her lower arms, and you get that little bit of a moving
ease
hold
of the head kind of getting into place. You can kind of think of it as the wool kind of catching up and then settling.
Yeah. So if you had a spacing chart here, you have what frames do we say? It started on 35. And then we end here on, let's say, 43. So 35 to 43, these are your key poses, the start and end. And then we've got 36, tiny little ease, just leading a little bit with the shoulder. 37.
And remember, this is animated on 2s.
No, this is all animated on 1s.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, this whole section is on 1s. That's the cool part.
Yeah.
And then you've got 38 right here. It's like that. So the ease is extreme, and then you just get that one frame in the middle. That's really nice. A lot of people, when they're doing motions like this, they'll try to overload the shot with frames. So you've actually got the ease in right there, the 38, 39, 40, all the way to 43. And in CG, especially because of the way the computer will put in your in-betweens, you will often get spacing like this. Ease out, nice, goes faster, there, eases in, there you go. So you get 36, 37, 40. It's just boring.
And it's just a ease in, ease out. And in the graph editor, it'll often look like that.
Yeah.
It'll just be this boring ease out and then ease into the end.
Mm-hmm. And instead, try to push your spacing. Try to think of it like spacing charts here. Whenever I'm animating, I try to think of my spacing like this just because it helps me visualize things. And think of how you can exaggerate this line so that it looks dynamic and interesting. If you can do that, your spacing is going to look really dynamic. And you might think, oh, wow, there's going to be these big pops right here. And technically, it's true. If this middle frame here was just drawn normally, yeah, you definitely have a pop.
Yeah,
but instead,
it wouldn't read well at all.
They smear the character. And for anyone who's curious, a smear is essentially a way of connecting two drawings. So maybe you want to draw this out, Cameron, because you actually draw a little bit better. So if you just trace the character here, essentially, okay, not the full character. Well, I guess you could do the eyes too, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of important.
Yeah. So as Cameron's doing this, we're going to have the starting pose, which is here, the character leaning, looking screen left, and the end pose, looking screen right. And if we were to just leave the character, I think you missed one of the eyes.
I circled both of them.
I'm not seeing the circle on the left eye.
Weird.
I saw you circle it
now?
before. Yeah, now it's showing.
Weird.
Yeah. So I guess that should be enough there. Now on this one,
This one or
well,
the final settle?
yeah, or where is it? I think we're both scrubbing. There you go, 38. So as the character moves over, we're going to have this very quick motion. And by default, our eyes will have a hard time following that. And our eyes won't be able to know where we're supposed to go. So let's actually look at this here and let's tone down the amount of frames we're seeing. And no, wait, actually I want to use sketch. There we go. So there you go. You see the frame before, the frame after, right there. And if we were to put a breakdown and just have the character, the shape of the head, be about the same size, you would have something around here, but it would be very hard to track from this position over here to where the head would be over here. You can see there's no overlap. We've got these gaps between all of these different points.
It would just pop, pop, pop.
Yeah. So instead, they smear the drawing. And you can see how that smear is essentially connecting the circle of the head over here to where you would see the circle of the head over here. Now, it's linked together. That's what smear frames are doing. They're allowing us to create this visual connection from one point to another. And the way you do that is really up to you. Smear frames, there's no rules to them. It could be a blur. You could do this where you
Multiples.
add like a multiple and you have 3 different pupils in the one shot. You could do it so that maybe instead of 2 eyes with 3 pupils, you just have 3 eyes like that. There's no rule. It's whatever stylistically will fit what you want and fits with the show.
Yeah. And something else to keep in mind when doing this is if you look at where's the if you look at these smear frames as a spacing, what you're essentially doing is if we draw the head here, and I'll pick a different color for these. You have your head here. You have your head here. Why is my
It got very choppy all of a sudden.
Yeah, I know. Weird.
It's still doing it a little bit, but
yeah,
that's
not
fine.
Smooth. If you look at that, you can kind of see what they're doing with the smear is they're thinking about their spacing. You have the one here, you have a little bit there, and you can see spacing in here for how the head is moving through.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel the ease in at the end here. It's a smear isn't just I'll just do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as showing your spacing.
It's a visual spacing chart using the character.
Yeah, you can sell like in this one frame we have a spacing chart that does something like this. There's a little ease at the end, and in one frame we have essentially 3 frames worth of spacing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can essentially cram in spacing within one frame. It's a really cool concept of you're kind of compressing time into one frame.
Yeah. So
if you were to spread this out over 3 frames, you would see that motion.
Mm-hmm.
But you're just smushing it into one frame and you build that in.
Oh yeah. It's spacing, once you start understanding it and really pushing it, it applies to so many things. And when you start getting into smear frames, you can really start getting a lot of cool elements in your shots.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. I think you're still active on there. I can't draw for some
I'm
reason.
not doing anything.
Yeah, I think there you go. It just didn't release there. So let's look at a few other small things on this. So we've got that nice smear in there. Beautiful. I love her reaction here. Those eyes. They even squash the eyes right there, which I really love.
Yeah.
But as she's going
I love
through,
how it's just like it's one frame. Boom, her head's
Yeah.
there.
just that little
A little
accent
bit
in
of
the
eye
eyes.
bounce. Yeah, a little. This is something that's important. Is eyes accent your dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people will animate dialogue and they'll just accentuate the mouth when people are saying their line of dialogue,
Well,
but they
cool.
leave the eyes alone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not how it works, because when you emphasize a word, and you can see I just did that there with my eyebrows, I can't control that. My brows will move when I emphasize words.
Mm-hmm.
If I say the phrase, like, what would be a good phrase to say? How about that one that there's 7 different ways to
I didn't
understand
say she killed him,
Yeah.
or something like that.
I didn't say she stole my money.
Yeah, that's what it was.
This is a fun phrase just because, and it can be multiple different phrases,
yeah.
but this is an example of how interesting English is as a language. And this will be a bit of a tangent, but ties back into what we're talking about. So the phrase, I didn't say she stole my money, can be interpreted 7 different ways. There are 7 different ways to understand that phrase, all of which are very different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say, I didn't say she stole my money, it means I didn't say it, but someone else did.
Mm-hmm.
If I say, I didn't say she stole my money, it means I did not say she stole my money. If I say, I didn't say she stole my money, it means I didn't say she stole my money, I said someone else stole my money. If I say, I didn't say she stole my money, it means I didn't say she stole it, I said she borrowed it or took it some other way. If I say, I didn't say she stole my money, it means she didn't take my money, she took someone else's. If I say she didn't steal my money, it means she didn't steal my money, she stole something else.
Yeah.
So you have a different interpretation depending on which word you emphasize. And this is important as animators because we need to listen to what our characters are emphasizing when they're talking. When you pick a line of dialogue, it's not just a matter of picking the line of dialogue. You need to listen for the emphasis. You need to listen to which word is being emphasized by the actor, by the person speaking, because that will tell you what they're saying. That will give you the subtext of what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. And it's very important because that's also when your accents happen. When you emphasize a word, that's where you tie things in. That's where you as an animator get to put these extra little tidbits in there. And that makes your performance that much more interesting when you add those in. And just on that element of emphasis, if you have a line, and we see this a lot with student work, we did it the same when we were students. A lot of students miss out on accents. Again, accents are when you emphasize something. So you'd have a character saying a line and their brows would just stay flat and they would just go, I didn't say she stole my money, and nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
That's not interesting, especially when characters start getting much more involved and like get energy in there. And you can see, like, when I said energy, my brows went up. If you just look at us when we're talking, you'll see that the brows react, and we're not trying to think of it. That just happens.
No, that just happens. We don't control it.
Yeah. So try to build those and find those moments. And Jukes, take care. Have a great night.
Yeah, take care.
2 a.m. Gs. Thank you for staying up so late. And yes, thanks for the reminder as well. So let's go with all of that now in our minds. Let's go back to Wamawinks here, which for anyone who doesn't know, the character's name is Wamawinks, which is just adorable. So let's listen to the line right there.
But
See how on go,
Where did she go?
where did she
Go
go?
is the one that's emphasized.
Yeah. They time it so that you get that extra little bit. And it's not much. It's not like they're doing a whole expression change. It's just opening up the eyes a little bit and then dropping them down. And they're
Kind of a
using
bouncing ball.
yeah, they are using the bouncing ball principle here. If you zoom in, as the brows go down, they overshoot. They go down and then kind of bounce back up and then ease in.
But even when they bounce up, it's just like boing.
Yeah,
boom.
a hold and then come down. And
It's literally the top half of her eyes is a bouncing ball.
yeah, if you just kind of track this point, and for some reason I can't draw. No, weird. Can you draw? Just out of curiosity. Okay, you can draw. Yeah, so if you just track that point right there. Now the other thing is they're applying squash and stretch mechanics too. As her eyes open up, you'll notice that the eyes get a little narrower, just a little bit. This is something we can do in CG. All of these things are not elements that are just relegated to the 2D world, and while CG we have to keep more realistic. You could scale up the eyes to emphasize that emphasis, that accent, and just have them narrow ever so slightly. Just a little bit. And it really adds a lot to your characters, keeps them alive, and adds that fleshiness to the face versus just the eyelid moving up and down.
And speaking of fleshiness, this is because we're zoomed in on the face. Notice that when she opens her mouth, her jaw also reacts.
Mm-hmm.
As she closes her mouth, her jaw comes up. Opens again, goes down. As her mouth moves over this way, her jaw also moves over that way. Her jaw is moving sympathetically to her mouth. And this is really good, especially when you're doing exaggerated dialogue where you're like, she's not just muttering the word, she's saying,
Where did she go?
Where did she go? And it's this big motion.
Mm-hmm.
Put your jaw in there. Don't just have the jaw flap up and down. Don't just leave it kind of still. Move it along with the mouth. Move it in arcs. This whole mouth motion is all about arcs. Like you get nice like arcs in there. Nice like whoop.
Can I draw? Okay, good. So if you look at the arc of the mouth, it's actually a very interesting one where she's dragging across. Let me change the color so we're a little bit more distinct. So it drags across this way. And then it overshoots and comes around like that. So we get that arc, round, and then you can see here, it then goes, let me catch up here. So it goes around this way and then back and around there. It's all arcs. They're not just going over and then over and over and just kind of these sharp lines. It's
or like over and then this way and then that way.
It's going in a big swoop, arcing around, arcing and going through. So you get a little bit of a loop, a little bit of a curve and an overshoot, but it makes the mouth motion so dynamic in there. And it's not much. It's not like the character's moving their mouth side to side the whole time, but there's these micro motions in there. I love that expression there. It's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
So
good.
Yeah, when you're trying to animate the mouth, really pay attention to those little arcs you can get. One of the worst things you can do with lip sync and just mouth shapes in general is when you just move the corners in and out evenly and you never shift the mouth side to side. Our mouth can go quite a bit side to side. As we talk, we'll talk out of one side of our mouth more than the other. Especially when you turn your head, you'll usually talk to out the side that's closest to the thing you're talking to. Unless you're trying to keep a secret, and then you'll talk out the other side. So,
and this is just general good practice is most humans, most anything, we're not built perfectly. We're not built perfectly symmetrical. We as humans will naturally talk out of one side of our mouth more than the other. I notice I talk out of this side more, and then this side kind of comes down more. So I actually talk diagonally through my mouth.
Yeah.
I don't talk straight. And that's just how I talk. I can't really change that. And if you look at someone like Sylvester Stallone, who has like one side that's a little more like paralyzed, I believe, than the other, he really talks out of one side. You have it's very rare for people to talk perfectly symmetrically. And then it also emphasizes their emotions. Depending on what emotion you're feeling, you will kind of, like Bo was saying, if you're trying to keep a secret, you'll talk away from the person. If you're trying to be secretive with the person, you'll talk towards them. If you're whispering, it's very much, you can change the angle, the position, and then you can change the direction in and out as well, because you can talk outwards and you can talk inwards. And this is a fun little thing for you all to try. What was it? You learned it yesterday, Bo.
The words forward and back line up to the motion of your mouth. So if you say forward, your mouth moves forward. If you say back, your mouth moves back. If you look at your lips, forward, back, forward, back. So when we're talking, you have this motion, not just side to side, in and out as well. So really try to emphasize those. Think of ways you can push that in your shots. And that's when you start getting shots like this.
But where did she go?
That's just so fun to watch because they're thinking of these little elements. So,
and on that note, if you are shooting video reference of yourself doing the line of dialogue so that you understand how the mouth shapes go, a common thing will be people will face the camera directly and say the mouth shapes into the camera, and they'll get that. But what you can also do is turn yourself to the side and film yourself saying the line of dialogue. You'll see just how much the lips come in and out.
Yeah. And ideally, have both at the same time. If you have a way to film with two cameras at once, say the same line with a camera on the side, a camera from the front. Use your webcam, use your phone, just set it up.
Yeah.
And then you can see both at the exact same time. It's really
for the same delivery.
Yeah. So I think with that, we've done a bunch of stuff on this shot here. So let's move on to the next one.
And I also did add in the Sir Fuego stuff at the end.
Okay. Oh, you added
if you want
it in here?
I added it into here.
Let's actually take a look at that first.
Yeah, just a really quick look, just in terms of going back to what we were saying about bouncing balls. So the first one is the more finished walk.
So this is something that Cameron animated, and you can see it's this little dragon just taking a little bit of a stroll, Sir Fuego, and there's all of this complex motion. You've got the rotation of the arms, the hips, the tail, the head, the snoot, the helmet, the feather, all of this complex stuff. And
thank you.
It's, if you were to try and approach this and animate all of it at the same time, you'd have an information overload. Just like Wamba Winks, even though she's a little simpler in the sense that she doesn't have a helmet and like a super long tail or anything like that, she's still got fluff, she's got ears, she's got that overlap of the face, all of these extra elements. That can be very hard, especially like the arms overlapping the shoulders, to think of all of that at the same time. Instead, this is how the shot started.
Yeah, this is my first initial planning.
So you can see, it's just an egg, essentially, that you can see the rotation on.
Yeah, I put some markers on the tail and the neck so that I could see the rotation side to side of the body. And it's literally just two bouncing balls.
Yep.
With the neck stretching between them, creating some overlap. You can almost think of it like when you play tether. What is that?
Yeah, the paddle ball.
Paddle ball or whatever, where you bounce it up and down and the ball bounces on the paddle. Like that's what his head is doing. His body comes up and kind of knocks the head up and keeps bouncing it up, and then the head falls back down. That's really what it is. It's nothing complicated.
And then from
And
there,
if
you
you can
just add.
simplify your animation down like that, that just makes it so much easier.
Yeah. And this applies to any shot. If you've got a super cool action shot where the character is jumping and like getting slammed into a building and then they jump out and then the superhero fly through the air, animate the whole thing with just a sphere. Get your timing in there. Maybe add a second sphere if you want to get a little bit of overlapping action in there. But just think of it that way. Build it all through that. And then when you add the complexities afterwards, you've got your timing and your spacing pretty much solved. It's such a load off and makes animating complex things or even simple things like this so much easier. So we've got that concept there. Just something to keep in mind as you progress with your animations. Now this is this is a scene I really love for a lot of different reasons. But we'll play it through it 2 or 3 times. That impact is so good. There's so many
So
good
good.
things in here.
Friend, as long as you are
Okay, we'll play it again.
So good.
I know.
friend, I'm glad you made it. What is this? Hey, new friend, as long as you are
That head turn at the end. One more time, and then we'll start analyzing some stuff.
I'm glad you made it. What is this?
That push in is so good.
Friend, as long as you are
The animators on
The
here.
turn at the
I
end,
know.
of course.
The animators on here is just like standing ovation. They did so much good stuff, and not just the
I
animators.
love it.
Everyone, the artists, the storyboard artists, everyone who made this happen. I can't say how much they did an amazing job. So
just right off the bat, we'll just look at this. So standard horse run animation, really well done, gorgeous, nice overlap. Again, what we talked about, if you imagine the horse's torso and then the head as 2 spheres, you get pretty much that motion.
yeah, you just think of those motions
But then
in one frame.
boom.
This is actually
It's
something,
so
pay
good.
attention to this throughout the whole thing. We're going to mention it a lot, but just really watch it. The spacing. We talked about this
Yeah.
earlier, how they're not going with the standard, like ease in, ease out, ease in, ease out. Boring. I'm going to use the term spline curves where the
Yeah, you
computer
don't
is
see
just
Wama
filling.
Wink like there, and then so like frame 1 here, and then frame 2, and then frame 3, and then hit
And then
4.
showing the contact and then the actual impact.
Yeah,
It's
it's literally just 1.
and
Boom.
right into the impact frame.
And this is something that's very important, is notice horse goes from there into an impact. She actually gets pushed forward. When you're selling impact, you want to avoid that one frame that everyone does when they're students, where like if I get punched in the face here, and they'll switch over.
Right.
There
you go.
if I get punched
line
in the
that up.
face, yeah.
If I can
Here,
line it up there.
I have lag, so I can't see.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
And
this is
if I
working
get
out, I'm
punched in
sure.
the face,
There
yes.
you go. Line it up.
I can't see because of the lag on my end. But yeah, if I get punched in the face, what people will often do, they'll have the fist. Here, I'll just go on mine so that we can see my whole arm. So you'll have the punch here, frame, let's say 1, and then what students will often do is 2, and then 3, where it touches, and then frame 4 will be the push. And that feels very mushy because it's just like a slow touch and then push. If you really want to sell impact, what you do is you have a frame here before, and then the next frame you go through the face, so you go through your character, and then you push your character around that, so you sell that bam. You're not touching the surface and then pushing it, you are going through it.
Yeah.
And that sells impact far more powerfully because your spacing isn't stopping at the object, it's pushing through it, and the object has to basically get bent
Yeah,
around
wrap
it.
around it.
And that is essentially what's happening here in
Yep.
in the shot here. Whoops.
There we go.
Where we have Wamawink nowhere, and then bam, she doesn't just land on horse, she's landing through horse. She's landing where horse was and is going past it, which is pushing horse's body down. And that sells impact far more powerfully than if she had touched and then pushed down.
Yeah. It's a very important concept. And it goes against what you first learn in class 1. A lot of people, the reason this comes up is when you learn how to do foot contacts, you do the contact pose, and then you put the foot flat on the ground. We don't want to do that with impacts, with hard hits. And the same thing, if you're going to have your character stomping, you would skip the contact and go from the foot in the air, flat on the ground. So we get that beautiful impact. And then the follow through, look at horse.
Those eyes.
Yeah, just pointing different directions. This is, again, something, just round eyes. When you're doing things very quickly, you don't have to keep things looking quote unquote beautiful and correct the whole time. You can push things to be really weird on certain frames, where if a character has a big reaction, the pupils can be totally different sizes. In this